Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to the Lindsay Martin Ellis Experience. So this is a long time coming. I've got the glorious Brianna Rose here with me today. Do you want to introduce yourself to our beloved community?
Yes, I would absolutely love that. Hi everyone. I am Brianna Rose and I am an embodiment and business coach for healers, spiritual entrepreneurs and coaches, people that want to turn their calling of helping people heal into a business that is lighting up the world. And I'm also the founder of the Light Leader Collective as well.
Amazing. How long have you been doing this work for?
I mean, I was just thinking this the other day. I'm like, this isn't my first time doing this in all of my lives. Like I've definitely done this work before previously. But in this lifetime,
Yeah.
I have been doing this, I would say for the last 8 to 10 years, I've been doing this work.
I know when people ask me that question, I'm like, since coming out of the womb
Yes,
and
day one.
everything, since coming out of the womb and all of the wisdom that came with that.
Yes, yes.
Well, we were talking about this. I don't remember exactly how we connected, but we definitely have similar bodies of work. And I just noticed reading your bio, preparing for this conversation, that you were a marketing executive, and you
Yes.
even mentioned living in a spreadsheet-filled world. And I
Yes.
used to be an environmental engineer and very much know also about the spreadsheet-filled world. So I think it would be fun to talk about. What do you feel got you to that place? Obviously, I would imagine for you, like for me, it needed to happen that way in order for me to get to where I am today and
Yeah.
have again gleaned the wisdom from that. But do you feel like, yeah, I'm just curious, like what brought you into the marketing executive realm?
Okay. I'm gonna try to keep this like as succinct and
In a nutshell.
in a nutshell, I've always been fascinated by just humans and behaviors and how people work, and I've always been an artist. I wanted to originally be just like a fine artist. That was my original major for college. My parents were like, "I don't know, we maybe you need to learn how to make money too." And I was kicking and screaming, and I didn't know what to do. And I landed in an advertising class in college. I was a liberal arts major at first, and I was like, this is cool. Like, this is artsy, and I'm connecting with people. And then that led me to marketing. And then before I knew it, I was like, oh, marketing is so amazing. I still am so passionate about marketing because it brings people together. And marketing can be done in such a deeply authentic way, which is how I ended up doing what I'm doing. Because originally doing it in corporate and even small businesses, there's a very icky way to market and sell. And I remember I had this moment at my last 9 to 5 position that I had where I was a PR marketing director. I remember having just this moment of saying, like I'm good at what I do and I make people a lot of money and I'm making the owner of this company a lot of money, but also like I can see this gift as like black magic and white magic. Like I can use this gift to create businesses that aren't doing good in the world or aren't contributing in the world, or I can make a shift right now and not only help other people and not just be confined to like one company at a 9 to 5. I can start my own business, but I can also choose the type of people that I want to help elevate and raise the vibration of the planet. So that was 12 or 13 years ago now. And I first started as an entrepreneur doing branding and web design and marketing consulting because that was just like the easiest step. Even though I was
Mm,
having like a spiritual awakening and going through all this, like, deep dive stuff that we go through. But that felt like I needed that transition to do something that was somewhat normal, in air quotes. Doing that, I wasn't fully ready to come out of the spiritual closet. And then I did, and my whole life just got really good after I did like the scary thing for me at the time, which was just
mm,
like kind of coming out and claiming this is what I do. But I do feel like everything happens the way it's supposed to, but I do feel like I am doing marketing just I just
yeah.
redefined it in a way that aligns for me, in a way that feels really good. Doing the work that I'm doing now, I'm helping these incredible healers, like visionaries of the world. I'm helping them get their work out there so that way they can help other people heal, and that can create a true ripple effect of light on the planet. So it's there. It's just not, even though I feel like right now we are systematizing a lot of the business and preparing for scale. So I'm back slightly in the spreadsheet world and systems, but not to
Mhm.
hang out there. We need to have some
Yeah.
structure to allow the increased flow in the future.
Absolutely. Exactly. It's like all of those spreadsheets totally serve their purposes
Yes,
throughout the
yes.
decade that I was in engineering. Well, Anne, I'm curious, what would you say that your definition of marketing is? Because, I feel like when we hear the word marketing, right, like that's where it feels kind of icky, or right, we know when it what it feels like to be marketed to in a way that feels like icky or in the corporate setting, right?
Yes.
But really, we're always marketing ourselves, right? And right,
Mm,
we're always
yeah.
showcasing who we are and selling who we are in a way
Yeah.
that's more just, hey, this is who I am authentically, and you can either take it or leave it. So I'm just curious. I'm sure, I don't know if you thought about it that way, but I think we get to like flip everything on its head, right?
Yes.
And shift how we perceive the word marketing.
Yes, I love this question. I haven't been asked this before, but I am all about redefining words and what they mean for us. And for me, I would say marketing is the ability to bring two people together that are meant to be together,
Oh,
however that
yes.
looks like.
Chills.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Easy
exactly.
peasy, because you're doing it in romantic relationships, you're doing it
Yeah,
in friendships, you're doing it in business, you're doing it at daycare, meeting other parents, right? It's like there's
yeah,
always this way that you are like marketing yourself. But it's just
yeah.
showing up and saying, this is who I am, this is what I'm about, these are my values. Marketing done well can be extremely powerful, and can create deep, visceral experiences. And I think that that's ultimately, the what we can strive for in all areas of our life.
Right. And with that, obviously, comes integrity and authenticity. So let's talk about the world of social media and how
Yes.
the slippery slope of seeing what other people are doing,
Yeah.
feeling inspired by someone versus feeling like we need to mimic and copy and deal with the algorithms and things like that.
Mm,
Right. So I would
yeah.
be curious if you have any nuggets of wisdom there, because even I notice, like, I don't do a lot of consumption. I more have more structured consumption where there's people that I know that it's like, oh, I'm looking to be, have some aspirational
Yeah.
moments, and I have my core people, and then of course things pop up along the way. But for me it's much more structured because I don't want the outside world to really infiltrate who I am. And that is a slippery slope for me where it's like, whoa, wait a second. I have to kind of like second guess myself again and say, wait, should I
Yeah.
be doing this? And for
Yeah.
me, it's simpler to just create those containers to kind of go in when I want to go in and then come out when I want to come out. And mostly
Yeah.
I'm just on social media to give, and that works for me. But I'm
Yeah.
curious for other people who are right, like more people are consuming in a lot of ways as well. So I'm curious your thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, I think we definitely live in a consuming, culture, and especially the way social media is like literally designed to make it addicting for us and stay on the
Dopamine.
platform. That's their goal. Yeah, like yeah, exactly. But I think you have to remember, I think for all humans, but especially entrepreneurs, we're artists. Like at our core, we're
Yeah.
artists, and we're here to express ourselves. And I think it's important to remember that social media can be a vehicle for that expression, and also be aware of what you are absorbing, because that can impact your artistry, that can impact your expression, because it's human nature to look and see and say, is that what I should be doing, or what's that over there? And we have to, I feel, be careful, and have sovereignty over that, of what am I choosing? Am I choosing to use this as an opportunity to compare and judge myself, or am I choosing to use it as inspiration? And I think that that's
Mm,
important. That's also why embodiment work is so important, and
yes.
nervous system regulation is so important, because we might get triggered. We don't even know what's going to
Yeah.
come up next in our feed. Like we can't control that, but we can control ourselves, our
Yeah.
bodies, our breath. So if we do get triggered, or if we do consume something that is a lot for our bodies, we can come back to center
Yeah.
and remember our power. But I, like you, I think especially in those like beginning phases of starting your business and you're learning what your voice is, have those blinders up and have that intentionality with social media, and like go on to serve, go on to inspire, and then sweep back out. My
Yeah.
first couple of years in business, like I never looked at my likes, I never looked at my engagement, I never looked at anyone else's stuff. And so when I look back at that time of that content, um, it was such a gift because it allowed me to have a clear channel, like a clear palette, because I was
Mhm.
just doing what I was being guided to do rather than thinking I needed to do something, or rather than, it even happens subconsciously. It's like you're absorbing so much that naturally you're also going to write content that sounds like someone else because you've picked up on it, you're seeing it so much. It's, happens
Yeah.
subconsciously. So I think exactly kind of what you shared, having that intentionality is so important. And I still have that today. And also, like you shared, putting the right people in your field will
Right.
inspire you and show you what's possible. I think it's important. There's a lot of people that, I've turned off on the privacy settings. I forget what they're called, where it's like I don't see their stuff.
Oh, yeah,
When
muting, I
and
think.
yeah, yes, and so I think that's important too, is to curate what you see and take your power back in that way.
So good. Yeah, and I think we'll talk about perhaps your rebirth from, I think
Sure.
it was May of 2024, because as you're reflecting that back to me, it's like, oh yeah, I'm in a new season coming
Yeah,
out of postpartum where really everything dissolved, my entire business, right? There was a whole point where everything was in service to me stepping into the archetype of mother and
yeah,
learning how to care for my son and to give to him fully,
yeah,
especially as I was healing and everything else. And so that makes so much sense because it was really a clean slate for me.
right.
And I had built my podcast and I had written a book and I had, a thriving business. And then all of
Mhm.
that, it's like, who am I without that identity? And
Yeah,
so there's a period where I've been very discerning over the course of the last year as my son's about to turn 1, because it was like I was so pure and I did
yeah,
not want other people, right, to infiltrate my field. And it was like, who
yeah,
am I, right? So that is a delicate dance. But I was going back to look because as I was coming out of my rebirth phase, I think that was the post that I noticed. It was like in my, what did you say? It was like in my rebirth era or something like that. And it was May of 2024 on Facebook.
yes.
And I started to read it and I was like, this is my people. This is my people. This is my
Mhm.
people. And so this was a long time coming with bringing you on the show. But
Yeah,
let's talk about, why don't you tell people, obviously you've been in business for over a decade, as an entrepreneur, and
yeah,
maybe tell people what you were doing prior. And I believe it was a kundalini business coach strategist, and then you
yeah,
shifted to embodiment. And so maybe
yeah.
share what that looked like before and what that meant and what you stepped into in that whole journey.
Yeah, totally. So, to shorten up the gap so everyone can understand how it all worked in the context, as I shared, I was doing branding and business consulting, but also like going into the depths of like energy work and embodiment and nervous system work and kundalini, and was just obsessed with this stuff. And what I started to notice was a lot of my coaching consulting clients and branding clients, they were struggling with imposter syndrome and they weren't seeing results in their business. They were afraid to pull the trigger. They weren't following through. And I was like, huh, there's a connection between
Mm.
what they want and who they want to become and who they actually are. And this website isn't going to be the bridge, right? For them to get
Right.
there, there's deeper work. And so I started to play with pairing Kundalini with business strategy. And I was like, let me just like try this out. I know it's kind of weird. This is back in the day. This is in like 2015, 2016, where people at that time, people weren't making the connection between energy and business yet. So I was just starting to test it out. My clients started to see incredible results, and I was like, okay, I'm onto something. And then I just slowly started to weave it in. I had to do my own healing to really step in, because again, at that time in the world, people weren't so open to this work. People thought I was crazy when I was like going on their podcast and I was talking about this. They're like, what, you're pairing energy with business strategy? This doesn't make sense. But I was like, I know, but it's working. And then in November of 2017, I launched Kundalini Business Coaching. Started an entirely new business surrounding that and had just like explosive success, and it continued for years. And then what happened was in end of 2022, beginning of 2023, what I started to notice was, and I imagine it's kind of similar with motherhood, where I had to just like lost myself in the identity of my company. Like there was no differentiation between like self Brianna and like Kundalini business coach Brianna. Like it was, the business had like taken over my life because it grew so quickly and there was so much success financially and just opportunities that I was like, wait, who am I? Like,
Mhm.
who is Brianna Rose? And what is she and who is she now? And I kept fighting the rebirth. I kept fighting the contraction phase. So like in 2022, I would take a couple of months off and I was like I was like forcing myself to like go in and come out really fast as if I could put a time on this. I was trying to micromanage my soul and the universe. And I finally got
You're
to the
like, I'm
point,
going to control my
yeah, I'm going to
awakening
control my
portals.
awakening, right? Like I'm going to manufacture this. And I didn't realize like at the time I was doing it, but now looking back on it, I was like, Brianna, you can't do
We
that.
all do that. Yeah.
Oh, we
We
all
all,
do
yeah,
it,
it's so
right?
fun. It's all so fun when we go back and we're like, oh yeah, there, oops, I tried to control that again.
Yes,
Whoopsie.
those being very, very human. And so it got to the point where the end of 2022, I was like, you know what? Like, there was this one program that I was launching at the time that had incredible success. It was making $500,000 a year. I could do it in my sleep, but it felt like this old identity and who I was like clashing. And my ego was pissed because I was like, don't you dare close that business down. Like, don't you dare like close down $500,000. Who would do that? Right. All
Mhm.
these stories came up, but I was like, I'm just like, I need to hit a pause. And so in 2023, I took off for about 6 months of like launching. I still had my coaching calls for the clients or my programs and whatnot, but I was like, I can't create anything new. I need to just kind of do what I need to do in terms of fulfill my agreements. And that was so great because it felt like I still had a purpose, but I need to figure this shit out, what's going on.
Mm.
And what I really was, I still love Kundalini. Kundalini is still like the backbone of what we do. But I have always been doing embodiment work. I've always been doing nervous system regulation work. It sounds so funny, but like I was more comfortable calling it Kundalini than calling it embodiment work because to me, I don't know, there was this opportunity for me to lean into the identity in that title. And I was using Kundalini business coaching as the safe zone because it still had like business coaching in
Mm.
it. It still was like valid because it was a business coach. And so in that depth of like the 6 months of 2023, I was like, wait, I've been doing embodiment work this whole fucking time. Why aren't I talking about this? Why aren't I saying like it's so much more than just Kundalini, what you're doing, Brianna? And so I had to do a lot of work on that of like really coming into my power and saying it's this and also it's all this other stuff that I've been doing that people that are in my programs know, but I haven't been outwardly expressing that. And so that was a really cool thing to experience because it's what my clients go through. It's what we all go through. We go through these rebirths. We go through the contraction to expand. We're in our expansion just to also contract again. It's just the evolution of the human journey, but also the entrepreneurial journey. And so then I came out and I was like, I do embodiment work, and everyone was like, "Yeah, we know." Like, yeah, you've been doing this whole fucking time. And so that was really cool, and we restructured all of our courses and programs. That I'm so excited about. We have a certification program that's a body based certification program with our methodologies and Kundalini and all the stuff. And then I reworked our group coaching program that's called Academy of Light that has Kriyas and Kundalini in it. But is more of an embodiment nervous system regulation program that you pair with business strategy. And it's just all like, it feels like I didn't birth a human, but like I feel like I channeled and birthed something really big, like a human child, multiple of them because we have multiple courses. But I had to go into that phase of birthing and creation, and I find myself included that when we fight that, we fight the womb, right? We fight the darkness, the contraction, and then when we start to come out, then we're afraid to come out and the idea gets stuck in the birth canal, right? And then we kind of like hold it in our bodies and we launch or we say that we are this one thing, or we create these courses and programs that aren't fully us because the big thing we want to do is so scary, right? It's like our big mission and purpose can't fit on the Pinterest board or the vision board, right? It's like it's so much bigger than that.
Yeah.
And so the tools that I used during that time, now I teach to pull it out of the birthing canal, pull out that
Mm.
business out of the birthing canal. And there's like, a big exhale, of course, after that. It's like this big thing, but you birth it, you create it, you become it. So that's
Mm.
a little bit of what was it, 10 minutes of the last
So
couple of
good.
years.
There's so many places I want to go with that. It's so good. A couple things that came through is
Yeah.
I think the biggest piece when we're going through rebirth. So obviously, so you're residing in Laguna Beach, California right now. So as we're recording this, We've got the wildfires that are happening all across LA and neighboring areas, and it's been it's been a week, right, for deeply feeling humans, right? It's been a week, but I've personally known people who have lost their homes, and there's been so much talk around this loss of identity, right? It's the
Yeah.
same with your ego with, okay, I've got a $500,000, business that's, thriving right now. Like, how dare you, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes, right, like it comes in different ways, but like our soul journey for that evolution, things get swept out from underneath us. For me, it was having a child. For you, it was this next evolution of your awakening journey of how this gets to be unearthed. For me, I was displaced in Western North Carolina. I ended up in a new place, and now it's like my
Mhm.
dream home. But at the time, it was very excruciating going through the aftermath of Hurricane Helene, especially as a new mother, right?
Yes.
So that's what I'm really feeling is like, right, we all know what it's like to have those moments. It's so painful when we're in it, but now we wouldn't change it for the world. So is there anything that you want to speak to that as it relates to identity and our ego, our personality, right? Like our human self thinking that we know best and thinking that we've got it all figured out. And this is the plan. And I'm just going to scale this thing and I'm just going to keep it going for the next couple decades. And this is it, right? Do you want to speak to that at all?
Yeah. There's a lot to speak to about that. I think the beautiful thing here is that our ego mind, our human mind can only see what it's been shown, and we don't know what we don't know. And a lot of times I was sharing this with my clients recently. I'm like, the life that I'm living right now, 5 years ago, like I didn't even know it existed. Like I didn't even know it could look like this. I didn't even know it could be this good. Like it just
Same.
what I was shown or what I had seen in family, friends, whatever, did not even know if this was a reality or didn't even know it could be my reality. And I couldn't even have manifested this because I didn't even know it existed. And that's why I think there's this beauty of when we allow ourselves to fully fall, hit our knees in prayer and in surrender, that the universe is like, okay, I've got this, I've got you. And there's a detour over here that's even better than what you thought that you needed or what you thought you've been trying to manifest. And as cliche as it sounds, it's this or something better. Like I'm manifesting this or something better because
Mhm.
there's probably something way better than my human mind can even imagine. And then on the flip side of this is when you're going through it or you should make a change, and this happens to me, a lot. The universe will always do for you what you cannot do for yourself. And I think that's sometimes why we have these really
Mhm.
painful moments is because we were trying to white knuckle this old version of ourselves that needed to be put to rest, but we were too afraid to do that because we're like, wait, I found it, this is it, I'm comfortable with this. You
Yeah.
hold on to it so
Oof.
deeply, even though you know I need something
Totally.
more, there's something more out there, but the universe will pull the rug out in its own way. And it could be
Mhm.
the burning of the trees, it could be the displacement, it could be the birth, it could be the income drying up to point
Mhm.
you into the route that you're meant to
Yeah.
do it. But the universe has patience, but it's also going to be like, okay, enough of the bullshit. Like we're stepping in right now. We're going to do for you
Yeah.
what you cannot do for yourself. And so my one of my intentions is to catch it before that happens. Like, before it has to get so bad that the universe has to step in, can I do it for myself before that? Can I nurture
Mm.
myself and support myself before it gets to that point?
I have a dear friend who says the greater the resistance, the greater the event.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Right?
So true. So
Right.
true. I was saying that this morning because I didn't want to do my spiritual practice. And that's kind of something I live by. I was like, I don't want to do this. And I'm like, wait, maybe I do want to do this because if I'm resisting it this much,
Yeah.
something good is coming through. And I think if we can reset that mindset, it could be really
Totally.
powerful.
Yeah, so let's talk about feeling. Let's talk about
Mm,
being in the body. Let's talk about nervous system regulation, right?
okay.
Because as we're talking about these catalyzing moments in our life,
Yeah.
if we like we got I'd actually my last solo cast from earlier this week that I published was you got to feel it to free it. It's like if
Yes.
you want to set yourself free to liberate yourself, whatever is holding you back, it has to happen in the body, or
Yes.
else it's not going to happen at all, because our
Yeah.
soul, right, is housed within this beautiful sacred vessel that carries so much information and is literally giving us all of these guideposts along the way. So let's talk about yeah, however you want to kind of carry into this, but I mean, I know obviously we both teach forms of embodiment and through our own personal practice, and we also feel the call to support other people. I don't know, do you particularly work with women or men and women as well?
Mostly women, but
Mostly
sometimes the
women.
husbands are like, "Get me in. What's going
Yeah.
on here?"
Same. I have a deep calling supporting spirit-led women on the devotional path.
Yeah.
However, I won't turn people away if I feel there's an alignment.
Mhm. Yep, yep.
But yeah, let's kind of speak to that, right? Because we're conditioned to think our way through and to plan it and to get it
Yeah.
all figured out, going back to the spreadsheets. And for me, that's why my podcast is called the Lindsay Martin Ellis Experience, right? Because this is about the lived experience and
Mhm.
everything. We've got to try it on. We've got to fall, as you said. We've got to
Mhm.
just be in the mess. And we've really got to be in relationship with our body to move with it versus through it, which is like, I'm going to try to control my spiritual awakening. So
Yes.
yeah, anything that you want to share in terms of your wisdom that you've gleaned along the way from your own personal practice and from supporting your clients?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think embodiment work is so important for all of us. I wish it was taught sooner, until it's like I feel like we find it because we need it in that moment when in reality it would have been so great if we learned it sooner because, the body holds all of the wisdom. Just as you shared, it's the house to the soul. And that's something that I say all the time. So when you said it, I was like, oh, this is so fun that that we're both seeing it the same way.
Yeah.
Something that I've really come to know and experience is the ego lives in the mind, but it doesn't live in the body. And so when you are getting those sensations in your body, it's because the soul is trying to speak through the body. It's the home to the soul. So when you
Mm.
feel these sensations in the body, it's the soul telling you something. And so my background, as much as it's in marketing and the embodiment work, I also have a background in Chinese medicine, and a lot of my work is rooted in the meridian system. And when you learn the meridian system and you can feel the sensations in your body, it's going to tell you how the body is speaking to you. It's essentially the language of the body, so we can discern and say, what is my body trying to tell us? And so I use this through the lens of entrepreneurship, which is super empowering, but this can be used in all facets of life. And what I've found is like, one, we haven't been taught this at all. We have no idea what our body's trying to tell us. This gives us a language to understanding that. Or two, for a lot of women, we haven't had safety in our bodies. So a lot of times women will do work and they're like, I don't feel anything. Is that wrong? I'm like, no, it's not wrong. You just haven't landed here. You haven't been
Mm.
allowed to land fully in your body. We have to start, creating, breaking through resistance that you've had of trusting this vessel, of trusting this body, of fully being here and dropping in from up here at the head and dropping fully into the whole damn thing, not just the head.
Mhm.
So it's really cool to watch that happen. But for me, the turning point was learning what my body was trying to tell me and how that relates to what's going on in my life. Because everything we're seeing outside of us is coming from within, which is great. But then for me, I was like, okay, well, I feel it within. What does this mean though? How do I discern this? How do we create a vocabulary around this? And that's been super impactful.
I love it. One thing that was coming through as you're talking about like having a vocabulary for this, right? And as we were talking about social media earlier and mentors and external support and things like that, when you were talking about, and my dog is, do you hear my dog right now?
He's
She's
feeling
dreaming.
energy.
She's dreaming and making all, she's having a nap and she's dreaming and making lots of noises. So if you can't hear her, great. Um, or if you can hear her, great. If you can't, just know I might be slightly distracted for a moment. But as we were talking about like mentors and external support and methodologies, right? And when you were mentioning Kundalini, what came through for me intuitively was like, well, that's a tool, right? That's a
Yes.
methodology, that's a practice, but like you came in with wisdom, right? Like just like me, as my body began to awaken, it's like, oh, no, 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 this is not the first time that I've done this before, but we have different things along the way that support us
Yeah.
in activating that. So, do you want to speak to that at all as we're, again, maybe if you want to speak to those that are kind of maybe just starting out on their journey or just trying to figure out like what is mine, and how do I leverage this, and moving with that external support versus that intuitive voice that resides within us and the wisdom that we came in
Yeah, totally. We could have a whole separate podcast episode
with.
about this,
We could
but
do a part two.
we could do a part two. But yeah, I think, we're guided to the tools that we're meant to use to crack us open because there is
Yeah.
wisdom. There is a voice that we haven't learned to listen to yet, or if we have, the voice is quiet and we strengthen it through the tools. And that's why I love embodiment tools. And I'm sure you do too, is it's not about searching for the guru outside of us. It's about finding it within. And that's why I first fell
Mhm.
in love with Kundalini. I was like, wait, I can work with my own body and I can, you know, be here with myself and figure out myself versus as much as I love Reiki and all of the tools, you have to like typically go to someone for those things or even
Yeah.
acupuncture. I love acupuncture. You need to get the treatment. And what I loved about these tools is it's you and yourself, you embodying yourself, you facing yourself. And I found the more we start to dig, we start to crack open. And as we start to crack open, we start to remember. And something I was thinking about specifically with Kundalini, so it's funny that you bring it up, is I was like, this isn't the first time I've been doing this. I've probably been doing this for lifetimes. And I share that because as you find the tools, like I even took a breath to kind of emulate that. There's a breath, there's a sacred pause that happens in the body of, oh, this is the thing that I'm meant to do. There's an
Yeah.
entire remembering that happens. So have fun out there. Try different tools. See what resonates. See what doesn't
Totally.
resonate. See why it doesn't resonate. And really lean into that. And just allow yourself to be guided to the teachers, to the mentors, to the people that show up because they're showing up for a reason. Everything is divinely orchestrated, and your intuition is sending you exactly where you're meant to be.
What a beautiful way to kind of wrap up the conversation, right?
Mm.
Because this is about the era, right? This is the age of Aquarius. My son is an Aquarius.
Yes.
My husband's an Aquarius, right? So this is like the individuated we, right? It's about
Yes.
sovereignty. This is about us being in our own unique expression. I also agree with you. I believe that we came here to express, we came here to create in this material world. And again, so much of this conversation was about like discernment with social media and mentors and what's mine and what's right. And really this is about having those external things in our world that are presented to us that I believe spirit brings to us for different reasons,
Mm.
activating that dormant wisdom that already resides within us. And I also love hearing from you your terminology and words. It's like, right, we have maybe some different methodologies, maybe some different programs and tools and offerings, but ultimately we're saying the same thing through our own lens.
Yeah.
And that's always really fun when it's like I can feel that this is the revolution of leadership, right? Us being integrated in our nervous systems, in our bodies, so that we can show up in
Mm.
authenticity and be our little piece of the puzzle. So, is there anything that
Yes.
you want to share about that? And then we can segue into how you can support people in doing that for themselves.
Yes. Well, I love how you wrapped that up so beautifully. And just the piece that stuck out was you saying how there's all these like little pieces. And I just wanted to share like we all fit together. We look through the lens of like astrology and even human design. Like we all have these different archetypes. We all kind of click into place. And so if you're seeing someone else that is doing similar work, that's cool. Like there's more than enough people to go around to help, to serve, to be. The reason why someone's going to come to you or why opportunities are going to come to you is because of your lived experience, your unique vocabulary, your stories that you get to tell. And so, for those of you that are kind of coming out, most of the time when we go through an awakening, we come out of it and we're like, oh my gosh, I want to help other people that have gone through this. And when you come out, you
Mm-hmm.
might see there are other people doing this. Don't let that stop you. There's a reason why you went through it, and there's tools and wisdom that only you can bring and only you can share.
So beautiful.
Mm.
And how we do that is by being in our bodies.
Yes,
Like
yes.
you said, right? It's like there are times where I'm like, oh dear. I remember when I first started coming out and I was going to launch my embodiment program. One of my best friends launched hers right before mine, and we were both going through this parallel path awakening journey. And that was so much of the conversation was like,
Yeah.
is she going to think I'm copying her? Yeah, I mean, it was
Mm.
so in the beginning of my journey, and it was just like, oh my gosh, no, like we're being activated. We are alive. Like so many of us, especially as women, like this is how we create is through the body, right? So it's like when I'm in my flow state, oftentimes there's music playing and like my hips are moving. I'll be sitting on my birthing ball writing content and I notice my body is just flowing and moving and grooving. And that's part of, like you said, the nervous system regulation. It's like just the practice of continuing to show up when we get triggered, when we have imposter syndrome, when we feel like, why me? Everybody else is already doing this, right?
Mm,
When it's in integrity, it's like start the podcast, write the book, launch the
yes,
business, right?
yes.
We don't want to do it all at once, right? Because, that's when oftentimes imposter syndrome can happen. And it's like everybody wants to start a podcast, but it's like when it's really in integrity, it's just like start the dang thing, just do it. The world needs your
Yes,
light.
yes, I so agree.
Amazing. All right. So, what do you want to share? How can people get in touch with you? How
Mm.
can people find you? What is most alive for you right now in your sacred offerings?
Yes. Well, I love hanging out on Instagram. So if you're listening to this, come say hello at I am Brianna Rose. I love connecting with you all. So feel free to send me a DM, say hello. Something that you learned from this, an aha moment. I just love connecting with humans. And then I also have a program called Academy of Light, which is for the healers, coaches, visionaries of the world, people that want to help other people heal. I help you to do that by turning your passion, your purpose into a business that is lighting up the world. And it's
Mm.
somatics and it's strategy and it's within a sisterhood. And I work with you intimately to help you birth that vision, as I shared. If you feel like you have that idea that's stuck in the birth canal, we pull it out together, we birth it, and we help you to create regenerative, keyword, wealth without burnout so that we can go from burnout to burning bright.
I love it. Thank you so much. I'll make sure to put everything in the show notes.
Perfect.
What a beautiful breath of fresh air conversation. Is there any closing, inspiring words of wisdom from Brianna Rose that you want to leave our
Mm.
audience with?
Well, I think that the biggest thing I want anyone to take home is this is an activation when you listen to a podcast like this. And when you're in listening to a podcast like this and you're getting activated, ideas come through you. So, whatever came through you in the last 30 or so minutes, any ideas, thoughts, action steps, they came to you and they're coming to you for a reason. So don't just think about them and do nothing about it. I lovingly challenge each and every single one of you to take action on whatever the thought, whatever the idea was that came through you today as you were listening to us.
And to bring it back into the structure with the flow, because oftentimes when that happens, I got it on a post-it, I got it on a napkin, I send an email to myself, it's in my phone. I just now have them all saved, creative expression in my phone. And when it
Amazing.
comes through, I just have a bulleted list and it's just
Oh,
there so that I can come back to it.
love that.
And that's super supportive for me because if
Mm,
not, oftentimes it gets lost, right?
yes.
Because things are moving so quickly. So thank you for that piece. That's a reminder for myself as well. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your light and for continuing to say yes and to show up and to die and be reborn over and over and over again. I know it's not always easy, those of us that choose to go first, because
Mm.
it's pretty excruciating at times, but you know, you're inspiring a lot of people through your work. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Much love, everybody. Catch you next week for another
Bye.
episode.